to be active in listening with you. Maybe the other person is a know-it-all and they think they know exactly, they can mind read you, and their interruptions are inappropriate or presumptuous, because I think my interruptions are presumptuous when I do that to Jack. And I don't mean to be that way. I'm kind of going on automatic pilot. I'm not thinking as focused a manner as I do sometimes. So maybe you keep getting interrupted because the other person disagrees with you, finishes your sentences so they can get it, so that they can get a word in edgewise. Maybe that's because you don't leave a space for them to respond, or maybe it's because they're not very good at accepting disagreement. What do you think? Give me, type me a little bit more information, because there could be many things going on there in terms of what you can guesstimate about it. So we want to pay close attention, especially with the people who are familiar with us. And sometimes, I do couples classes and then refreshers on the class, because we kind of need to remind ourselves, especially after years of being with a beloved or marriage, to wait a minute, let me slow down and be more patient, because I have forgotten this part of listening and paying attention to you. Ensure you understand your partner. Use mirroring or reflective listening, or in some way saying, especially if it's something that's close to the heart or really important in your life, you stop everything and listen very carefully, and you say, oh, well, am I getting this right? That you think this, or you like that? Then what happens is it's a more loving engagement. And at that point, either you take the time to get closer and quieter and more connected, or it's a topic that needs to be discussed later when you can be closer, quieter, and connected. Because you know that when we get loud or impatient or a little conflictual or a little defensive, we're probably not going to be quite as gentle and intelligent as we might otherwise. That last question, tell me a little bit more. Was I on track with any of that? Or can you give me a little bit more information? I'm curious. I wanted to share with you the patience scroll. This part about paying attention with respect and caring and being patient. Patience really and truly means getting your feet firmly planted in reality and accepting reality rather than saying no to it. And when you do that, something in you can relax and say, this is just what it is. When we get to that point, it's much easier to stop being negative, stop saying no, stop judging, stop whatever it is that we're resisting. Think about people who are standing in line at the grocery store with a cart of groceries, and there's somebody in front of them with a cart of groceries. And maybe the checkout person is saying good morning to the little old lady that's always there at that time of the day, and maybe talks a little bit longer than is really efficient. I remember a client telling me once, standing in line and getting so fuming and so impatient and so outraged that she just left her huge cart of groceries right there and went home. Now, that's pretty inefficient, and it certainly was a detriment to her day. One of the concepts around patience is accepting reality as it is and not trying to push things that we aren't supposed to push. I've got a page of just the briefest little things of patience affirmations that I wrote a while back. Patience is trusting that all things work out with perfect timing. Well, it doesn't seem as if things all work out with perfect timing, doesn't it? Except for when they work out, the timing is the timing, which means if we thought it was going to go faster, we really weren't in touch with reality. We really didn't have our feet on the ground. So, if we're trying to, this has happened to me so many times. I leave so much time to pack my suitcase for a trip, and then it ends up taking 2 hours longer than I thought it would. Now I've learned. I've done it enough times where I leave a lot more time, and I do it the day before because I know it's going to take me longer than I thought it would. So that if we think that things are taking longer time than they would, we've missed something. We've miscalculated something. I trust the natural timing of life processes. So do you trust the timing of what it takes to learn something new and then actually do it? Sometimes we're a little cynical about that, aren't we? Where maybe you learn something new in a class, or the two of you in your relationship decide to do something different, and then you kind of just watch there saying, yeah, right, this is not going to happen. And maybe it doesn't, because you've seen before that just talking about it isn't enough. And that means figuring out how to solve the problem. If just talking about it isn't enough, then what else do we need to do? And there are lots of ways to make change and to help ourselves into change. And you and I know that writing it down is one of those things. Have you ever done that, where you write something on a great big card and you put it up on your bathroom mirror, and it works for a while and then you don't even see it anymore, which means you've got to move it or do something different? So we want to be patient, and if we want to make changes, we want to know exactly what's necessary to make sure that change happens, whether it's in a process in the manufacturing line, or it's how you say good morning to your sweetie, or how you brush your teeth at night. Ooh, good question. What if patience becomes just an excuse for laziness, inaction, procrastination, etc.? Whole nother topic, isn't it? Now, there are always logical reasons for procrastination, for laziness, for inaction. There are some people who are passive. My husband, for example. Now, my first attack with that one is, my approach with that one is, let's find out what his personality is. Let's find out what works for him and what doesn't work for him. Procrastination usually comes from something inside us that's saying no in some way or another. No to that, yes. No to this, and yes to that. And the yes may be unseen. The person may not even know what they're saying yes to instead of. And it's usually another part of who we are that's dragging their feet and saying, maybe out of fear, well, I'm not going to do that yet because I'm going to lose out on something. Sometimes it's just losing out on feeling like you need a break. Except for then when you're taking too many breaks, nothing gets done. And then you feel bad. And some people go through that cycle over and over again. And breaking that cycle is not just noticing that you have the cycle. That means significant work on learning where this habit is coming from and what it is that each of us responds to. I lost sound. Is it just me? I think it must be just you, because nothing has changed in my sound world. Another person says she has sound. Here she has sound. I don't think he feels bad about it. If he doesn't feel bad about it, then there's something inside him that says, This is okay for me. This is what I need. This is what I want. And don't bother me. I deserve this. And to be fair, we do have parents that are role models that teach us to be passive, or teach us, well, that's good enough, or I just want to be comfortable, or let's just go play. And there are people who are too passive, and they're not really connected with their action engine or their excitement about getting things done. And that means they're missing out on the connection with full vitality and delight in life. Now, how do I answer that question is not possible unless I know that person and their dynamics. And that has to do with what we call the saboteur. The saboteur archetype is that time in our growth, usually before we're 14 years old and after we're 10 years old, somewhere around in there, and maybe even younger, where our parents teach us about wielding power. Now, not wielding power in terms of getting out a sword, but helping us regulate our energy by going into action and by holding our action and staying still, so that we're responsible with our energy and we make good choices where we're neither too loose and kind of, well, that's good enough, and apathetic and avoidant or repressed. So that's the too loose part. Too passive, or too tight, too stiff, too pressured. So those are the two ends of the continuum about personal power, where we make choices that are either the choices of a champion or the choices of a saboteur, where we sabotage ourselves, our efficiency, our effectiveness, our attitude, our time. So yes, some people have learned to be too passive, and that means they're sabotaging their quality of life. Some people have learned to be too aggressive and too controlling and too tight and too stiff, and then they're sabotaging their quality of life, because then they're not those people that they both work hard and they play hard. So that's I would say, part of how we sabotage ourselves. And that's a whole nother topic in itself. I call that there are actually 6 flavors of fear that we use to block ourselves and sabotage ourselves and keep us from being easy in the saddle with our power, where it's neither too loose nor too tight. So she says, he's okay with no progress, and I most definitely am not. So if he's okay with no progress, what is it that he really values? If he's not looking for progress, there are people who are looking for peace. There are people who are looking for comfort. And frankly, those people, and those, when I use the Enneagram, those are usually the peacemaker personality. And they are my most difficult clients, because they really and truly want comfort and peace more than anything in the world. And guess what? Achievement, growth, learning, change all require some degree of movement and discomfort. And that's my job, is to help people get better, change for the better, find something more, go in the direction of more wisdom, more efficiency, more happiness, a better quality of life, a job that they like better. It all means change. And change in the beginning, it feels uncomfortable, because we're leaving behind that which we've been doing and going into something that's new. And so people who really have a devotion to the value of comfort and the value of peace, they really don't see a reason to make themselves so uncomfortable to move into change and growth. Do you think I'm on track with this? Now, when we've got people who are, obviously, they come to me in my private practice because something isn't working anymore. And sometimes those people just choose to go to sleep. I mean, literally, they just retreat from the world and go to sleep. But that's not all that they are. All of us want love. All of us want to have a good life. All of us want to have happiness in our relationships. And so when they find out that their passivity is shutting down or a detriment to their relationship, then if you take their hand and walk beside them, they will go with you. What is Enneagram? The Enneagram is, let me type it for you right here. It's like this. The Enneagram is on my website, and you can do, it is 9 types. So if you look at my website, there's a link there to the test, and I use that with all the people that I work with. It's my best tool. It only costs $10 on the internet, and if you email me, I'll send you a little 3-page description of how to get it for yourself. So let me go back to the person who is too passive, because if they're too passive and they don't know how to move themselves into that place of discomfort, to grow and to move into something that's better, this personality, it doesn't fit with the typical thing that a lot of our population thinks, I should put it that way, where, well, you're supposed to be self-disciplined, and you're supposed to be, notice the supposed to be, you are supposed to be, which is a judgment. You're supposed to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and be responsible and go ahead and do it. Well, with peacemakers, that won't work. What they really need is the person that loves them and knows them best to remind them of the vision of what they really want in life. Because sometimes those people get so peaceful and so calm and so, in essence, they're trying to keep peace in everybody around them that they forget themselves. They are what we call self-forgetting. And that if we remind them of their best, their dreams, the things that they really want, they'll say, oh yeah, that's right, that's what I wanted. Okay, gotta go. Thank you, Heather. This has been great. Thank you, dears. So you want to remind them of what they really want. And then the other thing is hold their hand and stand beside them and check it out with them. Ask them if this is the direction they want to go in, and then be shoulder to shoulder. Don't make them go ahead of you. Don't make them go off on their own. Go with them as a partner and find out how enriching it is to walk side by side. All right. To end this session, the patience scroll. So we've got these little bitty ones if you're interested in them. And then I've got the long one, which is a scroll for you to read to yourself, to give yourself the nourishing thoughts that teach you about being patient. For example, I'm reading right from it right now. At times I become impatient. Sometimes it seems that difficult situations in my life will never end. Yet I know each experience has a purpose. But I'm not patient with allowing disrespect, insults, nor abuse. When I learn the lesson and solve the problem, the difficulties smooth away. I accept that events sometimes take longer than expected, like me packing my bags. I recognize that I will be delayed at times in traffic, in lines, working with others, or with technology. It's hard for me to hold my patience when my printer doesn't run. In these instances, I fill my mind with productive thoughts rather than becoming frustrated or angry. I use the power of patience to gain the best from the situation. As I relax, I learn to accept each situation as it is. I see the reality of the time, energy, and resources. I am patient when I think from a solutions perspective. So there you go. Patience is learned. Thank you for saying goodbye. You got to run, and I do too. So today we talked about accepting disagreement, about being patient, and communicating with somebody who sometimes gets too passive. So next time, next Wednesday, 8 o'clock p.m., I'll see you again in the Red Room. Thanks for listening in, and thanks for your questions tonight. Good night.